one. And we are live.
Hello, hello.
Hey guys, Brooke, I love the hairstyle.
Oh,
This
thank
is
you.
this is this is very different. I think this is a lazy Brooke, but that's okay. I
Yeah,
like that.
we love a lazy Brooke. Brooke, yeah, it's been, and guys, I'll just say that as a segue into that. I've been having a really interesting, for lack of a better term, week. Just have felt very fatigued and not very good at all. So make sure to take care of yourselves as well, because that's one thing that I've really been putting into practice this week. It's easy to get frustrated when you're feeling that way. Make sure to really, really take care of yourself. Because I woke up on Monday feeling really bad, and I said, well, I'm going to power through and I'm going to get better and only cause myself to be worse. So there's my little Brookism of the day. Take
That's
care
that's
of you.
so important, and let's just jump into that right away because, of course, you know this, Brooke. We were thinking of doing a sit down with Saket on
And I was so
Monday.
happy it was canceled.
Yeah, I'm glad. Not the reason, but yes. So I was dropping my daughter off to a baking class, and then I backed into a car, which turned into a big mess. It's again nothing happens without a reason. There was a big strong reason which I felt like I needed to be reminded of something. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But it's important because I got shook up so bad, not because of the accident. I mean, accident is the material thing, and no one got hurt. It's the after effects of that, the thought process that I had. It was draining because I thought I am thoughtful about my life in a very pragmatic way, but I wasn't. There's so many holes in those plans because I am the single point of failure right now because my wife is being a full time student in India right now, right? So I'm a single point of failure for my kids, for myself, for everything. So if I go away, like in that accident, if something bad were to happen to me, I was in a hospital, where do kids go,
Mhm.
right? Have I thought about it?
And that's a
That
really
doesn't
hard
mean,
conversation to bring up with people who are
yeah,
young, and your children are
right.
fairly young.
I mean, they're young, 8 and 10. I think they're pretty mature. But to have both sets of parents being away from them, and they're completely out of their control, it's gonna be very hard. Now, I'm sure if something like that were to happen, my wife will come back from India, but that'll take some time, right? That'll take 2 3 days. What happens in the meanwhile? Do they have the emergency numbers? Do they know where they are? Do these people know that
Do
they are
they
the
know where they
emergency
live is a
contacts?
really big question. I talked to
Yeah,
a
their
young
phone
person the other
number.
day, and they didn't know where they lived, and they were, 5 or 6 years
Yeah.
old.
And my daughters don't have cell phone right now. They're too young for me to give them cell phone. Again, I'm not saying if you've given the phones to a 5 year old, that's perfectly fine. I'm not judging anything, but our daughters don't. But if they don't, how are they going to call somebody? Right? And they know not to open the door for a stranger. Well, if something were to happen to me and a stranger just show up, what do they do? It's these conversations, right? When we're talking about taking care of yourself, when Brooke said that, I love that conversation because it's taking care of yourself and people around you, especially if they're dependent on you. Because if you disappear because of your sickness, accident, you pass away, whatever, things can happen, right? I don't want to start out Thursday morning with a morbid conversation, but it's very, very important to have that plan in place, to think about it. And if you need to take time to heal, you need to take time to heal. Because, especially again, if you're a single point of failure in your life. So for each of you, I would recommend thinking about it. Are you a single point of failure? And these incidents keep happening, right? So I think, to me at least, I got kidnapped in India in 2008. I don't know if Brooke, you know that story or not. I think we've talked
Mhm.
about that. In 2008, I got kidnapped at gunpoint in India. Thank God my wife wasn't in the car. Of course, I survived, which was great. But it left me with a lot of open questions on what have I not done in my life. But as all of us, we all have short-term memory, including me. I forgot,
Mhm.
right? So I think this is universe's way to kick me again. Where we did kick you in the butt in 2008. You didn't do crap out of it. It's 2024,
Mhm.
right? And I'm assuming the knocks are going to get stronger and stronger if I don't pay attention. So I need to
Mhm.
start paying attention to these knocks. Universe
Did you
gives
have
you
a
knocks.
conversation with your daughters following the
Not
accident?
yet. Not yet. I mean, they're aware of the accident. Of course, we talked about, if this happens, they know who to call. They already knew who to call in our case, but the conversation is there's no cell phone in the house, right? So we're giving them the iPad. Yeah, they can call. They can have a FaceTime with us if they needed to, but there's no cell phone. So like, okay, we need to get a landline, right? It's stuff like that and what happens if a stranger shows up? But they need to know a code, right? It's just one of those things where you wish and you hope never happens, but you can't live your life in the hopes. You have to live the life if it happens. What is the plan?
Do.
Right?
You do.
But
How do you
again,
plan to have that conversation with them?
so I've had a very open relationship with them in this case. Like when we were doing estate planning, all my conversations with the lawyer, they were involved. Now they're young, so they're not going to get
They weren't,
everything out of
walking
it.
through the numbers, but they were
Yeah,
active.
they were actively involved. They were saying, okay, if something were to happen, this is the family we're picking. Are you good with that? And sometimes they had an opinion of, no, this is not good because I hate them, or I hate that part of them, or I hate their kids, whatever that case is. And then we talk about, I'm like, okay, how do we get over it, right? By spending more time with them, by taking some vacations with them. So that's the only way you're going to be able to position them to make sure that they feel safe. I think few episodes we talk about it. In any moment, you want to be emotionally safe, physically safe, mentally safe, spiritually safe, right?
Absolutely.
And we usually talk about ourselves, like, oh, I'm part of a domestic violence, I need to be safe, right? But what about kids, right? And it's not like a domestic violence for the kids, but if you don't think about a child's emotion when you're gone, that's the most disturbing thing for them. Now, they may not know it, they may not articulate it, but as a parent, it's your duty to make sure you empower your child to feel safe with or without you.
And to make the best decisions for themselves. Unfortunately, so many kids are coddled by their parents, and my parents do a lot for me. So I'm not saying anything about that, but saying, unfortunately, if you don't feel comfortable in the decisions that you're making, if you don't have any sense of pride in your own decision making, you're really going to struggle if something does come up.
You do, and you will, right? Kind of like, I think we talked about it last few times, that a very good friend of mine, Raman, in DC, he and I, it's kind of like we met randomly on Craigslist. It's kind of a funny story. I was looking for a moonlighting gig, and my wife found him because we were working on a separate projects and all that stuff, and we became very good friends. Within the first month we met, we literally would start talking at 10 o'clock in the night. We would talk to like 4 o'clock in the morning. And we've talked about
Okay, guys,
everything.
I've never, ever, ever done that. My best friend will tell you I fall asleep at like the drop of a hat.
I mean, I've seen people do that in romantic relationships, right? Where, especially long distance and all that stuff. But our conversations were so intriguing and intense that both of us felt that.
Were they spiritually fulfilling, most likely?
They were spiritually fulfilling, right? We were talking about challenging each other's thought process, kind of stuff that I like to do anyways. I found another me challenging me, and we were talking about, we'll start with one topic, we'll end up with 10 topics down. They're all relevant topics, and we come back to the first one, and we probably go on a different tangent at that point. Beautiful conversations. But anyways, that guy, what I like about him is he has a lot of great qualities, but one of the best quality he has is being a conscious parent.
Mm-hmm. Conscious parenting is so important, guys.
It's very, very important. Very, very important. And all of us, including, again, me, I put me in the same bucket as everyone else, is that life takes over, right? And you start, like yesterday, our HVAC was broken, and I don't do well in heat. And I started getting irritating, and my older one said, okay, well, what's bothering you? I'm like, don't talk to me like that. I'm going to start crying. It's like, what's bothering you? You seem upset right now. I'm like, I'm supposed to talk to you like that. You're not supposed to talk to me like that. You're supposed to throw a tantrum.
And that's having a daughter, everyone.
Yeah. I'm like, you're not supposed to talk to me like that. I'm not used to this thing. This is shocking. So that conversation, but that needs to happen, right? But that's not if that's not priority, that won't come as a priority. In the moments of weakness, your worst self is going to come out. But what he told me one time is, I'm like, I was asking him, "What's your goal?" I was not, we were not parents back then, me and
Mm.
Tejal. We didn't have kids, and he had two. I'm like, okay, how do you define success as a parent? What is your definition for success? Because, and how do you know you were a good parent? He's like, his metric was very clear. He's like, can my kids make decisions on their own and good decisions, right? And good is not, I'm like, how do you define good? He's like, it's not good by me. They don't have to make, I don't have to agree with anything they do. Is do they feel good after making that decision? If that means going to jail, I'm happy with them. If that's what makes them happy, right?
Right, if they really want to live in jail.
If they really, really, really want to do that, and that's what they think their life's purpose is, who am I to say don't do that, right? He's like, I'd probably kill myself if they do that. But my success is, do my kids know what success is?
To
And
them.
are they living that life to them? And are they living the life in alignment with that goal? If they are, with or without me as a parent, right?
Right.
It's actually a beautiful parenting skill. That are you training your child to be independent of you? Or do you feel you're going to go through a depression because you won't be needed? I mean, I see a lot of parents do that right now in my friend circles where, oh, my child's going to go, the house is going to be empty. What am I going to do? My life has no purpose. And the child feels the same way. I won't be able to survive out of school. Right?
Where do you feel, or where have you felt your identity become intertwined with parenthood?
I don't think it needs to. I think we need to have, it's a role to play, parenthood. It's a role to play. And it's just like another thing that you have in your life. You
Right.
were happy before you had kids. You should be happy after the kids leave your house.
Correct.
And you should cherish those 18, 20 years they lived with you, right? But I think a lot of people stop being happy after their kids. They stop it. Like my wife is a good example. She stopped going to work because she wanted to spend time at home taking care of the kids. But something in her was not satisfied because she wanted more from life, right? So she chose to do that. I'm glad she did. But if she didn't, now, I mean, because she's doing it, when the kids leave, she has something to lean on that she's passionate about because she's following her dreams along with being a parent, right?
Exactly.
I think for most parents, unfortunately, it becomes an either or. Either they can take care of a child or they can do something else. They can't be happy and live their identity and be a parent. Like it's an interesting question though. I was asking, somebody was telling me that, oh, they got divorced. And I think they talked about the woman because they were friends with him, but it's probably true for the man as well. The woman has never been so happy because she's now working out, she's eating good food. I'm like,
Yeah.
why didn't they do it before they got divorced? What was
Yeah.
preventing them to do that?
Yeah, and sometimes it's the way the energies commingle, right? Unfortunately, there's some people and situations and circumstances that are just not right for you. And I just want to make a caveat here, not everybody is meant to be a parent, and people need
Not
to
everyone's meant
really,
to be a
really,
parent.
really deeply consider that.
Definitely.
Because
Definitely.
there's so much harm to be done if parenthood isn't really on your heart. And to your point about
It's
the divorce, a lot of my friends have, recently gotten divorced. I'm so happy for them. If that's what their heart really wanted. A lot of times we attach our happiness to somebody else when we get married. And that's what becomes really, really dangerous. And it
it
is why a lot of
is.
people stop working out or doing their hobbies or doing what they want because they'd rather attach their identity and conversely their time to this person that was supposed to
Which is
fix
not
everything.
fair. Which is not fair
No,
to the other
it's not
person,
fair.
right? You can't. Nobody. You're telling them because that person is not doing that to me, I can't be happy, right?
Correct.
The amount of
Correct.
pressure you're putting on the other person, if you're in that mindset, is
And I've been that person.
humongous.
So I know
They're,
that that is a real thing.
and they're gonna fail. They're gonna fail you
Yeah, they do.
because they're not going to be able to make you happy because you don't know what's gonna make you happy. Not when I say you, Brooke, not you. If you're that person who's looking for happiness from a relationship, it's not going to work, because eventually that person is going to say enough is enough, right? I need to
Mhm.
live my life and be happy rather than making you happy. Now, that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that person love you less. But
No,
unfortunately, when that happens, the person who is attaching that expectation is going to feel that the person doesn't love them anymore,
correct.
which is very, very sad. I mean, I think a lot about divorces because I think a lot about how can somebody, unless there is a physical violence and everything is involved, and completely lack of compatibility, how can you fall out of love,
Mhm.
right? If you loved somebody, there's how can you fall out of love? I've been thinking
I
about a
would
lot about
love
that
to answer
stuff.
this question.
Let's do that. I would love to
Okay.
hear your perspective, because I'm like, there's something, either your love was not true, right? Let me share my perspective, and I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah.
Either the love wasn't true, because I look at making it more spiritual. If God is true love, all of us disappoint God every
Mhm.
single day of our lives by complaining, by not doing what's good for us, by being sad, by being depressed, whatever the negative emotions are. Anything negative that we're doing to ourselves because of somebody else or because of us, we are not doing things in alignment with somebody who we think, if you believe in God.
Mhm.
But God doesn't stop loving us because we're not
Absolutely
doing things
not.
that He's not doing, right? He's not. So then, how can a true love fall out of love? Okay, that's the context.
Yeah, no. So for me, at least, and this is all just my experiences, when you think about somebody falling out of love, there's a couple things. Number one, people usually don't love themselves enough when they get into the relationship.
Very
And so
true.
that was me 150%. The relationship that I was in was with a wonderful person that I still love to this day. He was probably, what, 18 years older than me, something like that. And we were very close. Obviously, really enjoyed each other, but we were both had a problem, right? We both had an addiction, if you will.
Hmm.
He was addicted to alcohol. I don't drink at all. So, again, big problem.
Yeah.
I was addicted to validation and attention, and he could not at some point fulfill my need. One person
Yeah.
wasn't enough for it. And when I went on my spiritual healing journey, that's the very first thing that I really had to work on. And I think for so many people, they're coming in unhealed, and the dynamics are making the wound that much
Yeah.
worse, right? And so that's where the falling out happens, in my opinion.
I think you're 100% correct. But let's look at deeper. I think the falling out in love never happened because there was no love.
Yeah,
It was a need, right? It was a
I will
transaction.
disagree there. I will
Yeah.
disagree there.
But let's
Yeah,
think about that.
I I
And again,
believe,
I don't know the answer, but I'm
yeah,
using
and
the
all different
words.
forms of love. I really, really believe that a lot of people do set out to do the best that they know how. It isn't always great. And
Completely
obviously, we're
agree.
excluding like psychopaths, but there's a love involved to
Yeah.
doing the best you know how.
So I think there is love, and I think this is going to be probably a 5 hour conversation. So we'll time it. We'll make sure we time bound it. I think there's a love, and then there's a expectation
Mm-hmm.
that may get mistreated as love. So, and we'll talk about the love that we all think is the purest love, which is love of God, right? Or it's your spirit or universe, whatever. Pick,
Yes.
if you don't believe in God, that's perfectly fine. But there is a universal love, which is not expecting anything from you, nothing at all, nothing at all, right? And that, I believe, is true love. I think, unfortunately, all of us are expecting something in return from the other person. It could be physical, it could be spiritual, it could be mental, it could be emotional, it could be energetic. Doesn't matter what it is. But whenever there's an expectation attached to a love or transaction, in my opinion, and I'm not perfect, I'm not saying my relationships are perfect in terms of love, but we're talking about love as a word, um, of what exactly is it, because at least we know where to aim for, right? If love is true, first of all, as you said, you have to love yourself, right?
Mhm.
How can you be in a relationship, a loving relationship? It could be, it doesn't have to be romantic, a loving relationship, when you're not loving yourself fully, right?
Mhm.
If you have doubts about yourself, if you have insecurities that you haven't even accepted, if you haven't done that, how can you give yourself 100% to the other person? Impossible.
And you can't, and it's so hard.
It's so hard, right? I had to evolve. I mean, last 23 years, I've learned so much about my insecurities, and I still have tons of them
Marriage
that
is a
act
mirror.
out.
So are
Marriage is a
long-term
mirror.
relationships.
They are, right? They're a work in progress. But it was an interesting, I talked to one of my spiritual mentors a long time ago. I'm like, I'm having tough time with my wife. So they said, what do you mean? I'm like, I can't understand her. He said, you don't have to. Just accept her. I'm like, oh my, I still get goosebumps when I think about it. I haven't accepted that person. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So how can I love how can I say I'm in love when I'm not accepting somebody fully? I'm not saying, when I say acceptance at the core level, right?
Right.
All of their flaws, all of their positives, all of their non-existing qualities that may show up 20 years down the road, I've just accepted them fully.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm not saying that love exists. I'm sure in some relationship that love exists. But I think if we can aspire to that, chances are we'll never fall out of love. We may say we're not compatible.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll never say those words that we use is what I'm more concerned about is I used to love that person. But chances are if you ever loved that person completely, you'll always love that person. Like in your case,
And
what you
that doesn't mean
described.
you agree with them.
Doesn't mean you agree, doesn't mean you can live with them, doesn't mean you can have a relationship with them, intimate relationship, but you still love them. So chances are if you really loved somebody, you'll never fall out of love with that person. Right?
No.
That was the context I was talking about. So sorry, I don't know what we were talking
Yeah,
about
I
and
know
what we
that you're
were,
really wanting to talk the word context as well.
which is exactly the same thing, right? So kind of like
Yeah.
the context of love is very important because Brooke and I were talking about the word that my word for this week to reflect on are 3 words: love, context, and contact.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, okay, I love my girls, but I don't, because if I really, really loved them, I would have taken care of a lot of things in paper, in place. I would have put things in place to make sure that I'm protecting them the way I need to protect them. Right now, I'm leaving them up for chance that if something
Right.
were to happen to me, life will take care of them, right?
Yeah.
That I don't think I'm doing the right thing for me. So that was love, right? But then we started talking about, okay, love is fine. Then the content. Well, I could put all of these things in place.
Right.
What's the context about it? Context is
Mm-hmm.
even more important than
It
the
is.
content because I could have, like we were talking about communities, it's important to build support system and communities, especially for immigrants if you don't have families in here, right? But does that mean I need to have 1,000 friends? Or
Right. Doesn't
does
mean you
that
need to
need
throw a
to?
party every Tuesday. No.
Correct. I'm sure you'll be popular
I'm
if you
sure you'd
throw
be popular.
parties,
And you'd be
especially
out
at
of
the
a
good
lot of
ones,
money.
and a lot of money, yes, which a lot of people do. But the context of that is important, right? So we're not saying build communities to have fun. So build communities to do what? What is the context? Communities is the content. So a content without the context is a completely waste of the content. Right?
It is.
I was on a podcast the other day, and they gave a very interesting analogy to me. When you go to a restaurant, the outside of a glass is dirty, but the inside everything, the water is clean. Would you drink that water? Chances are no. Chances
Probably
are
not.
you would not drink it because the context of that water is equally important than the water itself. So now it's a very clear analogy. I love that
It
analogy.
is. It's
Very
very good.
very visual because most of us have seen that. So now let's think about what context are we living our life in? We want to have a lot of money, all of us. We want to be very successful. We want to be famous, whatever your content of that life is. But what's the context of that life? Where does it all fit in? Right? So that's very important. And this accident actually was a blessing in disguise for me because a lot of these things, which I had probably buried, or I thought that I had answers for, and I didn't look into it, these came up to the surface again. Like, you know what is true context? And it's not an easy decision, right? It's not an easy discussion saying that we can do that in the last 2 seconds of the conversation, saying, oh, my context is I need to love myself. That's not
Right.
the context. The context is, why do you need to love yourself? Or why do you need to feel like my relationship is not working? That's the content. What's the context? What about that relationship is not working, right? The context is very, very important. For me, I don't have a cell phone. I don't have a phone for the girls. Okay, the why is it important? So the why is the context. We talk about, ask a lot of whys. It's really the clarity that I got is why gives you the context.
It does.
What gives you the content, right? Most of us are focusing on what we need to do without having the right context to it. And once you get your context clear, I'm pretty sure you can fill the right content.
I always tell people in my work that you're too focused on what you are versus who you are. So when you introduce yourself, elevator pitches, I see this all the time and I couldn't roll my eyes more. So many people are focused on what they are, as in I am this thing, this thing, this thing, and this thing, versus who they are, what their
Yeah,
bigger mission is, what they want to see happen in the world, why their work informs that. So what versus who is a very big distinction as well as the what versus why,
very
and
true.
all things to think about.
I think it's kind of interesting, right? Because if you take it to the business world,
Yeah.
people don't care what you offer.
They care how you
People
can change their
care
life or
how
help
you
them
can
or
change
whatever
them.
it is.
In what context you can offer them that, right?
Yeah.
That context is how is it going to help them? That's all they care about.
Mhm.
They don't care about the content of your offering. They actually don't.
No,
You
they
could,
really, really don't.
they do not. I mean, for all of us product innovators, we think our product is the best product since slice of bread. Go talk to your consumers. They don't care about your product.
I said
They
that to a
care
young
about
lady. She was so set on getting into an Ivy League. And I said, for a degree that does not warrant an Ivy League. And I was like, you do know nobody's going to like look at your degree, right? Because she wanted to do a very similar job to me. And I was like, I have degrees and nobody cares. Not saying not to get an education, just if I
right.
was Yale educated, it wouldn't change my business structure.
No, it won't. But so it's an interesting. Somebody was asking me why did I get MBA, right? Uh, I'm like, I had a void, and I needed to fill it. Honest answer. Did I think Columbia is going to make me a better businessman or a better consultant? No. I probably forgot everything I learned there anyways. I just have a paper that's $200,000 worth of paper, which says I went to Columbia. That's all it did. Nothing else. Right.
Yeah.
But one thing it did for me, and again, if you're that person, you have to think about it, is that it got my confidence level to 400%.
Hmm.
Right. Now, did I needed that boost? Probably not. But that's the only way I knew how to boost it
We
at
all
that
need a
time.
good confidence boost.
Right. For me, that worked. Was it worth $200,000? Hell yeah. Would I do it again? Yes, I would. But
And that's
does
that
everyone need
context
to do
coming
that?
right back out again. That's that
Context.
context.
Completely. You have to realize just because Saket saying or Brooke is saying something is good or make it bad, right? There are a lot of people on YouTube saying don't go to colleges. Colleges are worthless, or every successful entrepreneur is a dropout. Well, it's not necessarily true. It's not true. Not every successful
I'm a
entrepreneur is a dropout.
successful person that has multiple college degrees, guys. So it
There you
really is
go.
context.
It's all about context of what is the degree going to do to you. If you're stuck in your life and you move forward and the degree is going to help you do that, there's no price to it. Just pay the price and move on. But if that degree you're thinking is going to help you in your business because you're going to learn some skills, then you have to figure that out. Is that true or not?
Hmm.
Right? So that context is very important. But anyways, I know we went a lot of different places today. I love the conversation. If I offended people with my definition of love, that was not the intention.
And
The
I'll jump in
intention,
there too. I never want to say anything that does any sort of harm. So I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to make the decisions that are right for them. And if something isn't helping you become your true self, just take that into account because we all have to get there sometimes. And what we both, like I think I can speak collectively for us, what we want is really for you to be your most aligned, happy, wealthy,
yeah,
happy, all of those things, healthy self.
very, very true, very true. And again, I'm fine. I love the conversation right now. because we brought two different, completely different perspectives, right? Which is where
Yeah.
you want to have, these are the conversations that are going to force you to think clear. Doesn't mean Brooke's right or Saket's right again, right? I had to think on the fly of how I react to what Brooke's saying, right? Again, that doesn't mean I'm smart or wrong. I may come up with a completely different perspective tomorrow, because this
Correct.
conversation has left me with questions that I don't have thought about, right? So I think that's what you want to do. Again, before Brooke reminded me, I want to plop up the QR code. If you don't have these conversations in your life today, have them. Do not bury them. You can always drink and party, always. But there's not enough time to have these conversations.
And you can choose not to, which is another very valid decision.
You can choose not to. But if you're on here, and if you're coming on listening to this kind of shows, chances are you're craving for that, right? You won't be listening to this if you don't want to improve. You won't be. So the chances are you're not having this conversation because you don't have anyone to talk to. So again, be honest, right? Honesty is going to get you a lot, at least honest about yourself. I'm not saying tell the world your honest self, show the world your honest, but be honest with yourself. If you're here, you're looking for improvement. If you're looking for improvement, you need to be challenged. And if you need to be challenged, you need to have these conversations. If you don't have that person, here's my QR code, right? So come and talk to me. I'm more than happy to have these conversations. It says 30 minutes. Chances are it's going to be an hour-long conversation anyways, because nothing can be done in 30 minutes. I can't go get a cup of coffee in 30 minutes, knowing me, because I'll stop at like 20,000 places in between. So take advantage of these things, right? I'm giving you the opportunity to have those conversations. Doesn't mean, again, I have answers. I don't. But there's only one way to find out. Have converse. I can tell you I'm not going to sell anything. My promise to you. In these conversations, we're not talking about a deal that I have. If you're interested, we'll set up a completely separate conversation. This conversation is all going to be about you.
And he's going to have just as much fun as you do.
I have fun. I like when Brooke challenges me. I love it.
And he wants you to challenge him too. So come to him with all of your crazy thoughts and questions and ideas, and you just come as your full self. And I think that's such a valuable thing in today's world.
I love that. Well, anyways, we've taken a lot of your time, so thank you again for tuning in. If you're listening live, thank you. If you're going to be listening it offline, we appreciate you as well. Let us know how we're doing. Are these conversations helping you? Because they're as much fun as I have with them. We're hoping that you can extract some value out of them too. Thank you again, Brooke. Appreciate it.